Can you hear it loud and clear? Oh no.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to GM32, the hockey podcast. I'm Vito Scaringi.
I'm Carson Johnstone. I'm real excited about today. We got an awesome guest, Vito. We just watched some of his podcasts last night. He's got a successful thing going on with Puck Support and Hockey2Hell. So if you guys check that out, Vito, if you want to introduce him.
Yeah, let's give a big shout out to our man, Brady Leavold.
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me. It's fun. We got on the ice earlier. That was lots of fun. It was actually nice to get on the ice with some guys that could skate, so thanks for having me.
Man, it was awesome being out there. And not going to lie, we wore the grays today, me and you, kid. And we did, you know what? Let me stop myself right there real quick. Let's introduce our third man in today, our secondary co-host. You want him, you got him, the Slim Reaper. Big Johnny boy, what's going on, kid?
Thanks for having me, boys. Honestly, so fired up to be back again, man. I guess I'm on 2 of the first 4 podcasts here. So
Yeah.
That's a
You're
record.
50% guest.
First recurring guest. So I'm pretty excited. I'm like a co-host today.
Yeah.
Kind of like an intern here, so I'm excited, boys. Excited to be
Absolutely.
with you.
Anyway, so where I was going with this, me and we laced him up pretty good, Brady. Today, you didn't even step off the ice at all.
Oh, come on.
How'd you feel out there?
Not good. My legs aren't there, but I'm at the point in my life where anytime I can put my skates on, I just feel really lucky to be out there. And luckily, we had some good conditions. That is the best ice I've skated on since I've been in Ontario outdoors, for sure.
We picked a great day.
That was a beauty day, beauty ice. Shout out to we're in Bracebridge right now.
Yeah, Santa's Village, I believe.
Yeah, Bracebridge. Shout out. Thanks for having us. Thanks for inviting us up here, bud.
Yeah. Hey, listen, like I told you guys before, I got you guys' back 100%. Proud of you guys for starting one of these. It's not always the easiest journey, especially when you're getting going. It's can be challenging and sometimes discouraging, but just keep at it, and I'm happy to be here as well.
Absolutely.
Right on, yeah. You know what, thanks a lot, man. It was so much fun just seeing you on the ice and watching you play, man, because, we see the videos and we watch stuff, obviously yesterday and seeing you play and, just to watch you out there and just enjoying it and playing pond hockey, right? That's where everybody normally starts and enjoys the game, and you're so talented, even still, you said you've been on the ice maybe 12 times in the past, however long, but, it's wild.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, I'm not going to lie. The first time I put my skates back on, it was pretty difficult. It was one of those things where, and you almost want to just take them off and never do it again. But I've if I would have had that attitude that day when I put my skates on, I probably wouldn't have pushed through and started the podcast, started Puck Support, and who knows where I would be today. I just celebrated a year off all of the hard substances. I don't know if you guys want to go there that early, but very lucky to be sitting here. And I don't take any day for granted. And yeah, man, like being on the ice, there's nothing better.
Yeah,
That's
dude.
awesome.
You know what?
Congrats
We can, as long as you're comfortable going there, we can talk about that. It's part of your story. It's part of your life, and I guess it's part of your development too, right? So that's kind of where we start, right? We like to talk about where guys come from and how they started playing hockey and all that, right? So we can start there.
Yeah, well, so grew up in Port Coquitlam, which is, just outside of Vancouver, British Columbia. So the outdoor rink stuff's all new to me. I think we had maybe 2 opportunities my entire childhood to skate on a pond. So it's nice to be out here, and you guys are, growing up out here, very, very lucky. And I tell all the kids out here that have this opportunity to skate outdoors in their own backyards how lucky they are. But, growing up in Vancouver, born in 1987, Pavel Bure was my guy for the Canucks, and obviously I think everybody loved Pavel, and he just changed the game. Everybody skates like him now, but back then, it was special to have somebody like that in Vancouver to watch. He was so ahead of his time, and he made it exciting. He made hockey exciting, and I got to go to quite a bit of games with my dad and everything else. Unfortunately, I went through some things as a kid. My mom left when I was 5, and shortly after that I was sexually abused, and a couple of things happened. It made me angry, it made me uncomfortable, it made me confused, but it pushed me into hockey, and because hockey was my first drug, is what I say, and so whether it was a healthy alternative or not to be focusing on hockey all the time, that's what I did. And whether it was with a group of my friends or by myself, I always had a stick in my hands, and that's sort of where it started. But because of all those things, I never really had confidence. I liked to play by myself or with guys that I was always better than. When I was pushed, when I was, I never had the confidence. Yeah. Fast forwarding a little bit, you go to under 16s and being on the ice with guys like Gilbert Boulay and Carey Price and all them. And, I quit after the first day and probably would have made the team, but I quit. And unfortunately didn't get drafted to the Western Hockey League where everybody else did, and I probably would have, but things happen the way that they do. And something told me the next year that I needed to return to the under 17s. I got invited to go back, and I ended up making the team, and I made top 40 in BC, and was was listed by the Swift Current Broncos. And
Not shabby.
It was
Just for stepping back out there, right?
Yeah, it was one of the best decisions I made, but it was probably one of the earliest times in my life where I made a decision that, hey, I need to push through myself and give myself a chance. And so I was afforded that opportunity, but once again, I went to Swift Current at 16. I made the team at a training camp. I got hurt due to having a girlfriend back home. I pretty much quit, and I was like, I'm going home to play Junior B. I ended up getting Rookie of the Year of the league, my team, all that stuff, and played one game of Swift. Went back the next year, got Rookie of the Year of the Swift Current Broncos. But quit that year too. Went home on a mental health leave because I had a bunch of stuff going on.
Yep.
Returned as an 18-year-old, quit again, this time for good. This is no joke. 7 games in, playing first line, probably would have had every opportunity to have a really successful year, and went home and I played for the Burnaby Express with Kyle Turris. And
what is that? Was that
BCHL?
Yeah,
I had 9 points in my first 3 games playing with Kyle Turris, who was a phenomenal 16-year-old at the time.
That's crazy.
Wow.
They went on to win the RBC, but lo and behold, I quit there too. I got kicked out of my house shortly after, and that's sort of where the addiction stuff came into play. It originally started out being fun, partying, but I would always take it that next level. We'd be drinking with my friends or doing other things, and I would be the one that would keep going, encouraging everybody else. People would be sleeping, and I would still be up and going and trying to escape myself. And about middle of that summer, I'm 18 years old, just about to turn 19. I ended up calling Dean Schenn, who's now the assistant coach for the Carolina Hurricanes, and I asked him. I was like, he was the head coach at Swift Current, and he'd been there before, and he knew me. And I said, listen, I made a huge mistake. Do you think I could come back? And he's like, well, because I have to fast forward. I actually got traded to the Everett Silvertips. That's when I left Swift Current. I said, trade me to the Vancouver Giants or the Everett Silvertips. Those are the only 2 teams I'm going to play for.
Why those 2 teams?
Because they're close to home.
Close to
I
home.
felt I needed to
Okay.
be close to home.
Okay.
So I went home. I started playing with the Express. The Express gave me about $10,000 to play for them, which they shouldn't have done.
No,
but anyways,
little greasy up there under the teams there.
What it did is it gave me money to party. Is pretty much what I did with it. So anyways, I get traded. I get a phone to Everett, and I get a phone call from Kevin Constantine, who was a coach of the year in the NHL.
So you went back. You ended up playing for the one team, and then you got the trade from to Everett. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
About 4 games in after they gave me that money, so I was like, hey, I can't leave, and I was playing with Turris and having success and all that. So Kevin Constantine called me. He was coaching the Everett Silvertips at the time. He won Coach of the Year with the Penguins before, and I actually got my friend to pretend to be me and tell him I wasn't coming. Yeah, true story. And my dad was away at the time. Otherwise, you would have drove me down there.
Yeah.
But and that's where it happened. But fast forward a little bit, guys. Sorry, I'm rambling. But
No, you're
good.
good.
No,
This
it's
is
great.
why we have you on here, man.
I
the viewers are here.
asked Dean to come back, and he's like, hey, you can come to training camp, but you're probably not going to make the team. Maybe we can find a place for you to play. And I went to training camp, and I ended up making the team as a 19-year-old, but I didn't play very much the first half of the season, and that's when I really started to fight more. Sticking up for my teammates and stuff.
Yeah.
And by the end of the year, I was, playing, top 3, top 4 forwards, and did fairly well. But what happened at the end of that year is I got a local girl in Swift Current pregnant, and
Wow.
and so that was kind of a shock. And that's something we can get into later, maybe. But I didn't handle that situation the right way.
Well, young kid,
Yeah,
young kid, still trying to play juniors,
Yeah.
figuring yourself out. That's a tough one.
Sorry, I just want to be clear. So when you say like, I quit, but you still always played, right? Like you went home and played like junior B, or you went home and played like for the Express, or right?
Yeah, but there was a time like when I quit, like when I said I quit as a 16-year-old, I essentially quit that team. I played junior B that year, went back 17. I quit. I was home for 3 weeks. Then I didn't play, and then I went back and played. But when I went back to play for the Express, I played 20 games. Then I quit. I didn't play for 5 or 6 months the rest of the season. They went on to play the national. They won the national championship after I quit.
And
they went
you
on.
were at
So,
home.
so like you had said earlier, you said that you kind of had a hard time challenging yourself. But did you find it was because of that, or was it just like, you know what, I can't deal with hockey right now for whatever reason, or like just other things?
Yeah, it was all to do with my mental health, and just very, very suicidal. I couldn't help but just stop thinking that I just didn't want to live, and calling my dad every day. The Broncos, they bring in team psychologists and everything, but at that point in time I wasn't ready to get honest. I wasn't going to tell anybody. I would show people a little bit but never reveal what was really going on with me, and because at the time, and I still believe this is true today, when you show yourself, especially in a hockey dressing room, to coaches, to players, to management,
it's a risk.
It's a huge risk. It's different if you go in there and you got a cast on your arm. Hey, coach, I got a broken arm, and they can see that, and they're like, okay, no worries, you're on the IR. You go in there and you're like, hey, I'm not feeling good, like something's going on with me, like and you can't focus. Well, then that's looked at as a weakness, and
especially back then too.
Yeah,
I will say that too. And as a coach, I coach U18s and U16s right now. I coach a little bit of junior too, and I'm trying to develop these young kids as a developer, really a hockey developer, and something important is going to be to encourage these kids to speak to their coaches and be approachable. Be a guy that is honestly. I heard a ton of old coaches too say you can't be their friend too. Well, why not?
Yeah.
You can be their friend and coach. Like there's a line, of course. There's a line, and you have to make very clear where that line is, I think. But you have to be approachable because for these reasons, right? Like, and everybody goes through mental health issues. Everybody. That's just the way it is. And you got to be able to talk to your coaches. Then if you can talk to your coaches, you can talk to maybe your teammates, right? And we got to promote this healthy attitude, really.
Absolutely. So anyways, continue.
Yeah, and well, just to touch on that a little bit, it's like, and great point, Cars. Like it's being able to have those conversations, like it's really important. And I agree with you. I think there's got to be a line, but I think back to when I was there, like I was scared to be in practice as a rookie in the Western League, even my first year pro. Scared to take passes, like you don't want to screw up, you don't want to get yelled, whatever. And when you're thinking that way, it's only building more, more stress and more, whatever it is, anxiety and all of that, and it takes away from your performance on the ice. There's no question about it. Whereas if you have a supporting cast, like your coaches and everything else, where yes, you're gonna have to go there and work hard and play and do all that, but when we're off the ice, like if you can approach your coach and go in the dressing room and tell them what's really going on, well, that might save a life. We can get into this stuff later, but there's been guys that have played major junior that have taken their own lives for different reasons because they've either been pushed to substance abuse or whatever it is, and then they feel alone and they feel they have nothing because now they don't have hockey either, and it's extremely important that kids know that they can have that outlet, and if it has to come from outside the team, well then so be it, but we need to make sure that those supports are in place.
Yeah, and it has to be addressed.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And getting back into the story quickly, I ended up going back to Swift. I got that girl pregnant, and I ended up coming home, and I actually started dating this girl that I was with before, and she got pregnant too. So I'm 19. I had 2 girls pregnant at the same time. Now I had to go back to Swift Current, and being the smallest market team in the CHL at the time, it caused a lot of problems. A lot of problems.
Well, in which way? What are you talking about?
Like, I'm talking like just a lot of drama. Her family, was calling the team, spreading rumors around the town, everything else. Yeah. Cops got involved at one point.
You said small market, right?
Yeah, I guess
14th, it'd be like we're in Bracebridge, 14,000 people. That's how many people were Swift Current's tiny town, right?
Everyone knows everyone.
And team, what would like upper management say maybe?
Yeah, like they they basically, I came to training camp and they were like, hey, like we're gonna have to trade you because like right away.
Because of that.
Because of that, yeah.
That's
They're like, we gotta get you out of here. So,
Wow.
so I ended up just a quick story. So I was going to I played 2 games at the beginning of the year, my 20-year-old year, and I had 3 fights in the 2 games, no points, and I was waiting for practice coming up. And I was supposed to go to parade before I was leaving for practice. Dean Schenn called me, and he's like, "Hey, don't come to practice. You've been traded, but I can't tell you where yet." And I'm like, "Okay, well, whatever." So he's like, "I'll be picked." He's like, "I have a general manager's meeting in Calgary, which is 5 hours from Swift Current." He's like, "I'm gonna pick you up. I'm gonna drive you to Calgary. You're gonna fly out in the morning." So I'm like, "Okay, if I'm flying out from Calgary, it's probably out west somewhere."
Yeah.
So I'm like, "That's kind of cool because that's where I'm from." So he didn't tell me the entire time on the drive out there. He dropped me off at the Calgary airport, and he's like, "You've been traded to the Kelowna Rockets. Congratulations. Now get out of my truck."
Yeah.
And so it was kind of funny.
way.
Oh yeah,
Wow.
he's just saying it as
Wow.
a joke. Or he said,
Yeah.
"I'll see you in January when you come to play us with the Kelowna Rockets," or something like that.
Yeah.
And so I just laughed. And
Were you pretty excited to go to Kelowna?
I was
or-
so pumped.
Yeah.
I didn't know anybody on Kelowna other than that they had Luke Schenn at the time. Luke Schenn was the big guy there. Obviously Tyler Myers was there too, but I didn't know who he was at the time. And so anyways, I ended up, being me, being the addict, alcoholic, I ended up cleaning out the mini bar in the hotel and getting drunk by myself and showing up to Kelowna hungover and not knowing what to expect. Well, Jeff Finley, former NHL assistant coach now, or was the assistant coach there, played for the St. Louis Blues, picks me up. And I'm looking like crap, I'm feeling like crap. And, I didn't realize that the media attention was going to be a little bit different. What I also didn't know is that Jamie Benn had come to the team a day before. He had left the BC Hockey League to come to the Kelowna Rockets. So actually, I have, a newspaper article with me and Jamie Benn on the bench. 2 new guys to
Bringing in 2
Kelowna.
studs.
This is who it is, right?
My favorite player of all time.
Yeah, so it was kind of cool. And again, at the time, Benny was a little bit of an unknown. He played with Tyler Bozak the year before in Victoria and had a really good year and was drafted by Dallas in the 5th round. And was going to he was going to university.
Yeah.
He was going to University of Alaska. He was going to Alaska on a scholarship, had his Div 1 scholarship. But Len Barrie, Tyson Barrie's dad, he owned the Victoria Grizzlies at the time, the BC Hockey League team. But Tyson was playing for the Kelowna Rockets. Tyson Barrie was on the team too. He was 16, best 16-year-old I ever seen.
Gross, eh?
Really,
Disgusting. He was the best player I ever played with.
He's got a bomb.
And and so because Tyson was there, Len had actually encouraged Jamie to go to the Rockets, even though he had said, he wanted him for his own team. He encouraged Jamie to leave the Grizzlies, and so Jamie showed up, and our team was completely revamped, which is not typical of an owner of a junior A team to encourage somebody to go to the Western Hockey League. But obviously, he knew what was happening in Kelowna. They were building a pretty special team. They were a year away. They ended up going to the Memorial Cup the following year. But when I showed up to Kelowna, I was not in a good way. And funny story, they already had 3 20-year-olds. So you're allowed 3 20-year-olds in the Western League. They had Chris Westblom, who had been their goalie since he was 16. Their captain, James McEwen, who's a good friend of mine, who was a fighter and was the hometown from Kelowna, captain of the team. He's not going anywhere. And the third 20-year-old was Mark Messier's son, Ryan Messier. Yeah. So I get there, and I'm like, well, I'm not making this team. Like, there's no way. Like, there's nothing short. I can't do anything. Like, Westy's been here for 5 years. James, the captain, he's from Kelowna, and it's Mark Messier's son. And the day before I arrived, Mark Messier was there in the dressing room. I never got to meet him there. But he came in the room, did the speech for the guys, blah, blah, blah. So you got to think. Like, and that's all these guys were talking about. Oh, Messier was here yesterday and all this stuff. I'm like, well, there's no way I'm making this team. So anyways, I remember the first time I hit the ice with the Rockets. So that day, I got there, and Swift Current took all my gear except for my skates. Like, all my gear. Like, everything, nothing. My jock and my skates. And so I get to, I get to Kelowna, and all the media's there, and I was with Benn and all that. And the goalie coach, Kim Dillabaugh, I think he's with the Flyers now, but he was there. And he was going to do a goalie practice. Well, the school guys, like the young kids on the team, were not in school that day. There was a day off. It was a Friday or some pro D date, whatever. And so the young guys had to go shoot on the goalies. Well, I just got outfitted with all brand new gear, everything, right? And they're like, hey, like, there's a goalie shoot. You want to go out and, shoot on these goalies? And I'm like, sure, it's just the young kids on
Yeah.
the team. It can't be that bad. Little did I know, it's Tyson Barrie, Tyler Myers, Jamie Benn, Brandon McMillan, who played for the Ducks. Like,
World Juniors.
like
He's a great player.
unbelievable. Jesse Paradise was out there too, and it was like, and another kid, Kyle St. Dennis, who was only like 5'6", but he was like he was crazy. He was so little and fast. Like, I was like. I literally called my dad after that practice. My dad's a scout for the Saskatoon Blades. I'm like, who the hell are these young kids on this team? Like, this is crazy. Miser's out there. He's 6'7", but he's stick-handled like a 5'10" guy. I'm like,
come on.
What the hell is really going on right now?
Good
like,
hands on
This is
my
a
hands.
young bomb.
Yeah,
eh?
Evan Bludoff was out there. He was drafted to the NHL too. Like, I just couldn't believe it. And then
The talent pool.
Yeah,
eh?
so I was there. I was out there for like an hour, and then we had like an hour and a half practice. First one-on-one drill, I got absolutely crushed by Luke Schenn. Like, I had to go off the ice. My back's like
Was he a body then too?
crazy.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't talk about this much, but it was a weird dynamic in the dressing room. I sat next to Mizey the entire year. He was on the right side of me, Myers, and Luke Schenn sat directly across. And I was probably closer with Schenner, but I talked to Mizey all the time too. Yeah. But like because they were both like potential first rounders, which they were, it was always a weird dynamic. Like they didn't really talk. They played on with different pairings, and they didn't. One was on one power play, one was on the other, one was on the, and they were always both. They're like, so do you think I'm better? Do you
Almost
think I'm
a
better?
competition.
Oh
Right?
yeah, and it was weird. And I was like, I don't know, man. Like just whatever. And Schenn ended up going 5th. I think Myers went 11th, and Myers obviously. He got Calder Trophy in the NHL. He won Rookie of the Year. Got
That's
a 10
a
million.
dynamic I think a lot of guys don't understand is like the competitiveness within. I'm going to call the CHL professional hockey because those guys are professionals, quite honestly, and I'll call that in professional hockey. I just don't think it's like acknowledged.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, sorry, Cars. Like it's hard because you want to be a good teammate, but you know that especially. You're looking at major junior. I mean, that's your time to shine, right? It's different if, of course you're going to have that same competitiveness within an NHL dressing room or whatever, but you look at a league like the CHL or like the AHL or even the ECHL, it's everyone's trying to get to the next level. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, like, you want to be that good teammate. You want to be supportive of your teammates, but you also want to be given the best opportunity for yourself so that you can move on and everything else. And it's a really fine line. Yeah. It's a very fine line, and
you want to be a good teammate all the time.
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
And what was great for me that year, during that year, I got traded to Kelowna. There was 2 girls pregnant, and the one in Swift Current, and then the one that I was currently with, and it was interesting because. I had zero aspirations of going and playing professional hockey. I mean, you have to remember that, like, by this time, all the scouts, everybody knew that I had, addiction issues, girls that were pregnant, everything else. And I was ready to become a firefighter like my dad after that year. So, I didn't really care. I had no stress. I'm like, I'm going to play this last year. I'm going to have fun. I ended up playing with Jamie Benn on a line, and, like, it was unreal. Like, we were and people don't understand that Colin Long was our centerman. He had 100 points that year.
Yeah,
and
we were watching highlights.
Yeah, we watched
unreal.
So how did they make room for you for the 20-year-old year?
They got rid of Messier's son.
They did, eh? No way.
Yeah, they sure did.
Wow.
Yeah, they got rid of Lion Messier, and
you don't want him on your bad side.
no. So I don't know. I maybe I'll reach out to Mark, but
earned your spot. I'm sure about it. And anyways, you said you played with Longer and Ben.
Yeah.
And we watched your video last night. What's the mentality you had going into that? Like, just like. How did you, stepping in every game, knowing these guys are on your line, how did you feel?
Yeah, you know what, I just knew that, it's interesting because, Longer, he's a good friend of mine still, and he always tells me I was the best line mate he ever had throughout his entire career, and if you look at his stats, I think he had 21 points the year before. He went from 21 to 100, and he'll tell you why is because he had confidence because he knew that he wasn't going to get pushed around or whatever. Because I'd fight everybody. Like if you watch, there's a video that he got hit from behind, and I fight. He got at 6'9".
Did well too.
Yeah, and
well
the
too.
guy was kind of a pussy, but it is what it is.
Is he Swedish?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
What do you think about how the game's evolving, kind of away from the fighting and me personally, I really think that it's got a spot in the game, and to kind of take it out completely, I think wouldn't be healthy for the game. But I'd love to know your thoughts.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't think you're ever going to be able to take it out. I don't think you can. But what I will say is this, in major junior hockey, there's no way you should be able to fight 3 times in a game before you get kicked out. There should be, you have to remember, I fought Brendan Dillon too, who played for San Jose, and I think he was 17 at the time, and I'm 20. If I do that on the street, I'm getting charged with assault. It's assault on a minor. You can't do that anywhere else. And
honestly,
and these kids, especially because of what's going on, and I'll be the first to tell you, I didn't, I've had probably I don't even want to tell you how many concussions I actually think I've had, but well over 10. And how many of them came from fighting? Not many, maybe 1 or 2. And so, the difference is that, if we start to penalize guys, okay, well, if you fight, you get kicked out. Well, if there's a time for a fight, it's still going to happen. But you're not going to have these staged fights where, and it's going to elevate the skill level. There's guys that I played with, especially my first year junior, that would have no business playing in the Western Hockey League if it wasn't for their role of being a fighter. And which, it kind of sucks because it does bring that other element of the game. And to your point, I get it. I grew up in the 90s. It's you know what I mean? It was not the 70s, but it was it was the era of the superstar and the era of the enforcer, Bob Crowbird and all these guys. And so I grew up watching that and learning from that, and I wouldn't have changed anything that I did. I had I think my last year in junior I had 26 fights or something like that. The year before I had 20, and it was a couple staged fights, but mostly it was because I was protecting my teammates and everything else. And so I don't think you'll ever be able to take fighting out. How are you going to stop it if 2 guys want to fight? The linesmen are going to get beat up. You can't jump in there. Then there's going to be more people getting punched. So it's interesting. I just think that. And this wasn't me that thought of this. Jim Thompson, I have to give him credit for that. He's the one that addressed it on my podcast, was saying that, if we're going to allow fighting, well, allow fighting, but, kick them out after or whatever.
There's got to be an accountability factor too, I think, because there is after 3, but that's 3 strikes, you're out. What are you promoting really, right?
Yeah.
Of course, if fights are to happen, they're to happen, but kick them out. Okay, so you understand the repercussion. If you're pissed off enough to fight, then fight. But like you're saying, these stage fights turn these kids that are 16, 17 into animals because they want to make the NHL. So I think you have to remove the position of a fighter out of the NHL. If guys want to fight, they're going to fight. Right? Tough guys. Jerome McGinley, was he a fighter? No, he's an unbelievable hockey player, but he beat the shit out of guys.
He didn't beat the shit out of Jamie Benn, though.
No, yeah. Love that. Hey, you know what? I should know that too. He's my favorite player.
I love Ginla though. Hey, let me tell you a story about Ginla. So this is how classy Jerome McGinley is. So I was playing for Swift Current as a 19. I think I was 19. Maybe I was 17. I was 17, and which was an incredible year. It was the lockout year. So we had in our division alone Getzlaff, Ladd, Dion Phaneuf, all these guys, just because they would have been in the NHL, but because of the lockout, and
they dropped back down.
Yeah, and so we're playing the Calgary Hitmen, and if you look at the attendance records of the CHL, they had it from that year. They sold out every game. So we got to play there 6 times every night, sell out Saddle Dome. Cool,
that's
right?
Crazy.
We're playing against Ryan Getzlaff, tried to hit him once. He's like, "Don't even try, you little midget." okay, Mr. Getzlaff. Okay.
Amongst boys.
But anyways, we were walking in, and at the time, my girlfriend at the time, she loved Jerome McGinley, and we passed by through the visitors' dressing room. I remember I saw Ovechkin my 19-year-old year. We got to say hi to him because Washington was in town and everything else. But on this one particular occasion, Jerome McGinley was there because we had just skated and they were practicing because they shared a rink. And I wouldn't typically do this, but being the young dumb guy, I was in love with this girl. I was like, oh, this is my opportunity. I'm gonna get it. And so I said, hey, I said, hey, I play for Swift Current, blah 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 blah. I don't think I said it was my girlfriend, or no, I did because he signed it to her name. So I said, hey, my girlfriend back home, you're her favorite player, you know what I mean? And he's like, oh yeah, he's like, shot the shit with us for a bit, and sorry. The truth is we were talking to him at first. And we were talking. I went back as we were leaving. I said to him and was like, "Hey, I hate to do this, but blah blah blah." So now that I remember, so now he's like, "Hey," he's like, "Yeah, give me a second." So doesn't he run up to the office the marketing guy or whatever, and comes back with 2 pictures. What's your name? What's her name?
Nice.
Signs it and took
Yeah,
the extra
beautiful.
time. So like what a classy guy. I know that went a long way for her. And I don't know if I still have the picture, unfortunately, but it was really cool. And so like it gives you an idea of what it takes to really be a professional and to take that little bit of extra time. And I know I wasn't like a little kid fan, but I was playing major junior hockey. I was still a fan, right?
Yeah, it's
And-
no
and-
McGinley,
and-
man.
yeah,
Like,
and
come
it made,
on,
and,
dude.
and it was really cool. So I always remembered that, and like even when I was playing in the minor pro or whatever, like these kids get in a fight and I'd be in the dress or in the penalty box, and the kids would be there, and I'd be, hey, timekeeper, give me a puck, and I'd throw them a puck or whatever, right? And it goes a long ways, and you get a couple letters after they send letters to the team and everything else, and that's the stuff I remember more than any goal or fight or anything. So
Yeah, it's beautiful.
but yeah,
Always.
but yeah. So sorry, I know you want to hop in, but let me
No,
let me finish
you're
this
good.
story.
Yeah,
So
you're doing great.
Yeah.
I'm in Kelowna, and there was a time. Actually, I had a 4-goal game in Kelowna. And Benn had 2 goals, 4 assists. I had 4 goals, 1 assist. I think Colin Long had 4 or 5 assists. And a 6-3 win. It was just crazy.
Wow.
Just 5 apples.
Yeah.
Casual.
I had 14 goals, 13 assists in the month of January in 13 games.
Scratch
And,
a casual
yeah.
27.
Yeah, in 13
2
games.
points.
And I didn't even get Player of the Month because Colin Long got Player of the Month the year before, and the month before, and weren't going to give it to Kelowna Rockets back-to-back months.
Oh,
They gave it to
that's
Dan Gender, who is now a friend of mine, and he had like 5 or 6 points less than I did. And I was like, but whatever.
Yeah.
I ended up getting. I got Player of the Week and Player of the Month, like bought the fans' choice a couple times that year. It was really cool.
That's
But
crazy.
I ended up leading the first round playoffs in goals. Like if you look, I had 6 goals in 7 games in playoffs. We lost in the first round, and I remember crying after. My career's over. I wasn't even planning on playing pro.
Yep.
Wasn't planning on going to university. Nothing. To use my scholarship, I was going to go to the Justice Institute to be a fireman, and I remember crying. I just said to we had such a talented team. They were young. They were like a year away, and I just said, if you guys don't go all the way next year, you guys should be disappointed in yourself because you guys will have a team next year. And they made a couple moves, and they did. Following that, I got to talk to one of the head scouts from Tampa Bay Lightning after that game, and they wanted me to go down to Norfolk immediately following, but Norfolk wasn't making the playoffs. So I couldn't get a work visa in time, so I ended up going to the East Coast in Victoria at the time, which is the only Canadian pro team where I could go without needing a visa. And I ended up scoring. I played like 1 shift the first game because I literally played the next day after we lost out in Game 7. Sorry. Right before playoffs, we had our final game. Colin Long got his 100th point. With like 6 minutes to go. It was so cool. We worked so hard to get that. That was probably the coolest moment. I probably would have had 100 points that year too if Jamie Benn didn't get hurt. If you look, he only played 56 games. Benny, if you ever hear this, it was a phantom injury, and Long will tell you the same thing. He just shut her down. I went from that point. I went from that point streak. I went to the point streak, and then he got hurt, and then I went like 9 games with no points and whatever. But he came back, and we just clicked. The 3 of us clicked so well together. But so we did that last game. Colin Long gets his 100th point. As soon as that game is over, I get in the car. I have to drive to the Lower Mainland because my girlfriend is having a baby.
Wow.
So I had my daughter.
What a night.
I had my daughter. I had my daughter. Like the day after our last game, I got 2 days off. I didn't tell my coaches. They called me in when she's 8 months pregnant. They're like, Leo, like, what's going on, man? Like, we know Brittany's pregnant, and I'm like, okay. Because I didn't want to tell anybody on the team. I only told a couple guys because I didn't want it to be a distraction,
Yeah.
And so I go back and had my daughter, and we went to Seattle, played the first 2 games. I got first star or something in the first 2 games. And actually, this is probably the coolest moment. So first game in Kelowna, game 3, we won the first 2, and then we lost the next 2 in Kelowna, which sucked. But 22 seconds into the game, first playoff game in Kelowna that I ever played, 22 seconds in, my daughter and my girlfriend at the time flew in. I picked them up that day, at 3 o'clock. I had to be at the rink at 5. And 22 seconds into the game, right off the draw, I just come over, and I think Long or Ben dropped me the puck. I never shot. I don't have a good shot. And I just let it go and just ripped it bar down. And the whole, 22 seconds in, my daughter's at the game, first game she ever.
It's one of those
and
storybooks.
and the place just lit up, and it was awesome. And so I had a really good playoff and, earned a contract with the Lightning organization, which was cool. school, and
Wow.
it's a long story for another day, but I kind of got screwed over. I should have signed with the Rangers or St. Louis. I had a couple other options too, but I was just grateful, man, because I didn't even really want to play anymore. I had a really fun time that year. It was the one time I didn't party that year really. And I just was focused on becoming a dad, and unfortunately that kind of took a spin later on. But yeah, it was a good year, and that's sort of where the fun times of my hockey career ended, But I did go to the East Coast and played the one shift, like I was saying, and played the next. No, I played one shift because I was so tired. I just finished a playoff series, but they needed to get me in 3 games or something to play playoffs, so I had to suit up that night. But I played the next day, and it was for the West Division Championship in the East Coast.
You scored,
and I
didn't you?
scored. Yeah, I scored a
No
beauty.
way.
I scored the game winner, and then I scored the next night too, which was really cool. So like, there's a picture of us like celebrating, and I scored. There's a newspaper article about how I scored the game-winning goal, and like they worked so hard this whole year to win this banner, and I just showed up again. So it was kind of cool, right?
Yeah,
it was cool. But then listen, I went to Norfolk the next year, made the team, and I pulled a Brady, and I quit because my girlfriend. I literally asked to leave. I got hurt, and then my girlfriend was like, "I'm not coming there," blah blah blah. She wasn't really supportive of my hockey career, so she's like, "Go back to Victoria, it's closer to home," and blah blah blah. So I asked to go down to the coast, and I just barely even play. I was hurt and got so out of shape. Had a really good comeback. They put me on the IR again because I was out of shape, and then I scored 9 goals in my last 10 games or something to finish the season, which was really good. And unfortunately, during that season is when I got prescribed Oxycontin, and that's when everything changed for me big time. Like when you become dependent on something like that, it takes everything from you. So that's the long and the short of my hockey career.
I love it. No, that's beautiful.
That's it.
You know what? I think we should just dive. You know what? Let's have a slice of pizza.
Let's do that.
Let's have a slice of pizza,
pause.
and then we'll dive. We'll stop, and then we'll dive right into it. Yeah. Let's get going here. So you got hurt. You got kind of prescribed. I believe it was oxy. You said.
Yeah.
And let's. I mean, as long as you're okay with it, let's kind of just for the viewers out here too. It's this is a life lessons for you guys as well. So let's listen hard, listen in depth here, and let's kind of get your side of the story here.
Yeah, so it's dating back 2009. It's a while ago. Things have changed in the hockey world. Now there's a little bit more, knowledge out there and caution when it comes to prescription painkillers. But back then there was not a whole lot, and unfortunately, 2 years after that, we've seen Derek Bugard. I played with his little brother for a short period of time in pro as well, and just after that all happened, and a number of guys I've talked to are going through battles still because of that. But yeah, no, it was something that yes, people have to understand that when you're taking a painkiller like Oxycontin, it's not just a physical painkiller, it's also an emotional painkiller. So for me, what that did is, and what I learned, through multiple rehabs and everything else, is that when you've gone through trauma, like I went through at a young age, and different things, when you do an opiate like oxys or heroin or whatever, it touches on the same part of your brain as like love and connection. So when I took that first oxy, trying to mask the pain of my knee injury or whatever, but what it did is it started to kill the emotional pain that I had. And so I knew instantly the first time I ever took an oxy that my life was never going to be the same. That feeling, people describe it as like a warm hug, and it is. It's like instantly I wasn't I just felt unbelievable. Like I felt like nothing mattered, nothing that happened to me mattered, and it progressed very quickly for me to the point where I start doctor hopping and trying to get extra and this and that, lying, saying they were I lost them here, lost them there, and so that went on for a year and a half, and my second year pro, I remember showing up to training camp, and it was during the H1N1 outburst, and I had no idea what it entailed to actually stop that medication, and how physical it is, and what it does to your body, and it puts you into withdrawal, and it's just a nightmare. And so I actually went to training camp thinking, okay, well, I'll just take a couple days off and I'll be fine. Well, I was wrong. So I ended up obviously being really sick and blaming it on H1N1, and shortly thereafter I wasn't playing hockey anymore, and eventually my prescription got taken away because they could clearly tell that I was abusing it. And what that did is it pushed me to heroin because, once you're not getting them from the doctors and the pharmacy anymore, well, you're going to find them somewhere else.
Absolutely.
And so, I had a couple, street connections, let's say. And the one guy that I would always go see, well, he was always using heroin. And that was like a no-go for me. I was like, yeah, right. Like, there's no way I'll ever do that. Like, but, one day he didn't have any pills and he was sitting there using heroin, and I was very sick, like very, very sick, withdrawing. And he's like, here, just try this. And sure enough, I did, it was one of those things I never thought I would do. And that was back in 2011, I'll say, end of 2010. And right away, I think maybe I did oxys twice after that, and it was an instant switch to heroin. And
Kind of filled that. Just kind of
it was cheaper. It was actually easier to find, what I found out. But what it did is it led me into a life that, again, I never thought I would have been in, because now you're dealing with different, I don't want to say lower class people, because I believe that everyone's equal, but people that are also in that life, that desperation of addiction, and it was a progression. But all the things that I was told in rehab the first time back in 2011, they all came true. They always say, there's only like 3 places you'll be if you stay with this life, and that's jails, institutions, and death. So either jail, rehab, or you're going to die. And I can say that I've done them all. Luckily, I was brought back on a number of occasions from different overdoses, and also intentional overdoses, suicide attempts, where I'm waking up in the hospital to heart rate monitors on with my parents around me and everything else. And it's just, I just was extremely hopeless after losing hockey. At that time I had a young family, and I lost them as well, and it was just too much. I felt like I had nothing. I no longer was playing hockey. That's all I knew, and it was a tough blow. And so I ended up making a small comeback to what was then the CHL down in Texas in 2011, 2012, after not playing for close to 2 years. And I went to rehab, and I met Adam Braidwood, who was a first overall CFL draft pick, and was my roommate there. And he's now a professional boxer. He's like ranked number 2 in Canada heavyweight, and he's one of my best friends. And he was there, and he encouraged me. He's like, man, you got to go back to play. I was 24 at the time, and I was like, I don't want to, but he pushed me, and so I decided to go back and play. So my dad picked me up from the doors of rehab, took me to the airport, and I went down to Texas after not playing for 2 years. And it was a struggle at first, but I think 6 games I went with no points, but 5 fights, and then in the 7th game I had a 5-point game, and then everything
break out.
and then everything started to.
If you don't mind, I want to stop and honestly just compliment you for a second, because through all these things we've talked about, and not quite being able to finish here, these issues or whatever happened, you've always had the opportunity. That's an extreme testament to your abilities as a hockey player and your skill. Like, you haven't played for 2 years, and stepping out of rehab, someone's like, "Yep, bring him down." That's awesome, dude. And just to struggle through all that stuff and still be so talented and just be able to go back to that must have been nice. And now let's just talk about your charity a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Because obviously hockey is something that was important to you and helped you, and now you're giving back through hockey and through other things. So
yeah. So puck support is, I always say, I think there's a lot of great, organizations out there tied to individuals' names. When I decided to start this, it was never going to be the Brady Leavold Foundation. It was never going to be about me. I was just going to be a small part of it. And so, we came up with the name Puck Support, which is kind of a very cool name. I didn't come up with it. We were trying to figure out who did.
We were trying to look it up today.
I saw the Facebook post way back when.
I know Carson commented on it back, almost a year ago, coming up 10 months probably. And it's a little play on words. Puck Support is obviously a hockey analogy, but it's also come here for support type deal. And it's what?
I said okay.
Oh yeah. Sorry. No. I thought you said, "Are you okay?" I said, "I'm great." You know what? What I realized when I decided to start my podcast, I thought I was very alone. I thought my story was a one-off. I know that guys had struggled. I know that guys had passed away from overdose. I know that guys had committed suicide. But when you talk about things like, my addiction led me to, jail. I ended up doing 3 years in jail, and very eye-opening experience. Also homelessness. I was homeless for 10 months on the streets.
Yeah,
And,
you're in Vancouver, you were saying?
yeah. And so places I never would have thought that I would be. And it's, it was probably a couple of the best experiences that I ever had. It woke me up to not only my own issues, but, seeing the problems that are out there for a lot of people. And, since coming out with my story, I've met a lot of guys, hockey players, pro hockey players that, are either through their addiction, currently addicted, have been in jail as well. And there's more than people would ever believe. And, I started to get a lot of support, which I'm very grateful for. Like I had no expectation when I started the podcast. But about 2 or 3 episodes in, I got a phone call from a guy named Matt Thompson, who's become, a really good friend. And he called me, and he's not the type of guy to call anybody. He doesn't, he's very private and everything. And I had never met him, and he got my number from the website or whatever, and he's like, hello? I'm like, hey. He's like, is this the guy with the podcast? Yeah. He's like, well, I wouldn't usually do this, sorry, but I just wanted to call you and let you know. I had to, because I felt like I was listening to my best friend talk. He's like, my best friend's not here anymore. He died of an overdose. And I was like, wow. And his best friend was Matthew Lazinski, who's on my shirt.
Yeah, on the sweater, Puck Support sweater.
Yeah, so,
that's a great idea.
And so I realized in that instant, I was like, wow, and this is a guy that played for the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds, was also he lost his hockey career at 18 because he went to jail and was kicked to the curb by the OHL and I'm not sitting here saying they should or shouldn't have. But regardless, I know how hard that must have been, and it all stemmed from an addiction, trying to pay off a drug debt or whatever. And I found that out, and I connected with Matthew's parents, and I was like, you know what, something's got to be done. I didn't really know what to do, and then about 2 or 3 weeks after that, maybe a month, Sportsnet did an article on me.
Okay,
that's
what we read.
And during that article, I tell a story about how I played with Steve Stamkos, when he just got drafted, and there was another guy that was in that story, but I told the reporter, Garrett Joyce, I was like, I can't use his name because I haven't spoke to him for a while, and his name is Mitch Fadden, and I didn't want to tell him because, I hadn't talked to Fads in a while. We lived together in Norfolk for a bit. We were roommates during that camp, everything, and I had heard that he had been doing better. So after that article came out, I was trying to get Mitch on my podcast and messaging him, and I didn't really think to Google anything. I just Googled, seen his elite prospects, see he hadn't played for a while, and this is a guy that was drafted by the Tampa Bay Lightning, and a WHL All-Star. He was a good player,
solid hockey player,
really good. And a great guy. And so finally I made a post on Facebook, and I was like, hey, does anybody know where Mitch Fadden is? And somebody called me, and they're like, you should probably sit down. And I'm like, what's up? And they're like, well, Mitch passed away from a fentanyl overdose in 2017. And I was like, wow. So I found out that him and Matthew Lazinski died 2 weeks apart in the same year. And it was a huge shot. Even though I hadn't talked to him for a long time, this was a teammate, a friend, a brother, and somebody that I considered a friend, and like a lifelong friend, regardless of how long we hadn't talked. And I literally collapsed to the ground in tears, and I was like, hey, enough's enough. Clearly this is a more of a problem than what people are letting on, and something needs to be done. I don't know how I'm going to do it. I don't have money. I don't really have a ton of support, but we're going to do this, and we're going to figure it out. And since then, the amount of stories that I've uncovered, I kind of take it as a personal mission to find each and every individual that's either committed suicide or died from overdose, and the list continues to grow. We're over 30 now. There's men, there's women. The most disturbing, I think, and this isn't to say that they're not all equally disturbing, but what another gut shot was, I found out that 2 brothers down in the States, 18 and 20 years old, passed away from overdose in the same night, hockey players, Nick and Jack Savage. So, at a party, 2 brothers in the same night died and from overdose, and they were good hockey players. And So yeah, I just decided that we need to do something, and so luckily guys like Darren McCarty have stepped up big time. Brent Sopel, different guys, and a lot of other people behind the scenes as well. And we've just sort of trying to make a plan. It's all really new, but that's sort of what puck support is. It's like if you identify as any part of the hockey community. Originally, it was just for my idea. My idea was originally for junior and professional hockey players that are struggling. But what I soon realized is that we needed to do something a little bit big, a lot bigger than just that.
Absolutely,
and sort of incorporate it to the point where if you're a hockey player, if you're a hockey coach, if you're a hockey parent, if you're any part of the hockey community and you need support or if you need resources, then we're going to find ways to bring it to you. And it's and so recently we launched the clothing line, and I also found out that my coach from my first year pro, who's in my hat, passed away from a suicide, who was a very close friend of mine and somebody that I really cared. He was the best guy, man. Quentin Van Horlick was the best guy, pro hockey player, fighter too, and another tough blow. And so I made the decision that in every piece of clothing that goes out, except for our masks, which hopefully won't be around much longer with COVID, but who knows, everyone will have an in memory of, or their name with their year they were born and the year they passed away, and that's what I'm referring to on the shirt and in my hat. And we don't play on it. Like I don't play on it. I don't advertise like certain names. Like it's all completely random. So we have all the names, and whenever I'm doing something goes out, I'll just grab one and put it on there. Unless it's a family member or a friend of someone who has passed. And like recently, last night actually, I had Rick Rippon's cousin reach out to me and ask me if I can do something with Rick. And also recently I just sent probably 10 things to the Vancouver Canucks, which all had Rick Rippon in it.
That's awesome, man.
So like and then another guy I played against in the Western Hockey League, Rick Rippon, he was in my division, Regina Pat. And terribly sad story. Awesome. And it's so, these issues run throughout the entire world, regardless if we're hockey players or part of the hockey community. But what I know is hockey and addiction and mental health and everything else that comes with that. So that's sort of our focus. And again, it's really new, but it's exciting, man, because I'll say too, like we have a meeting with the NHL coming up, which is I'm a little bit nervous about, but it's going to be at least people are paying attention.
Absolutely.
And before you jump in, sorry,
huge
support. I'm looking down at my phone because I keep popping this thing off. This was sent to me by Danny Probert, Bob Probert's wife. She sent me a whole bunch of stuff, but this is from his foundation.
Oh, look at that!
And
Route 24.
So recently they just got their stuff too. I sent them a bunch of stuff, and so the support of Bob Probert's family, even though it's listed as a cardiac arrest. We're all very well aware about his story with addiction, and the reason why the Probert family decided to go in the direction of cardiac services is because they were so sick of people talking about his addiction and labeling him as a drug addict. But so they're really supportive of what we're doing, and that means the world to us, everybody involved, because that's. We look to him. I always say he's the guy up above taking care of everybody up there. Like the team in heaven is pretty damn good. I'll tell you that.
Man,
and he's the captain up there. So.
Honestly, I just to say, for a guy in your position to step up and do this, there's probably not a lot of guys in your position that have been great hockey players that had the. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say there's not a lot of guys. What you're saying is there are a lot of guys, but the ones that have been through rehab and actually felt the need to help others enough and get it out there and convey that message. Because other guys haven't done it yet, so or have tried in other ways. But it's great that people are grasping onto this and really sharing their stories too. Like Darren McCarty, you say, is one of your best friends now, or one of your very close friends. Right?
Yeah,
so,
he's I mean, and there's so many of them, man. And it's. There hasn't, to my knowledge, been anything sort of like this. Guys have started different foundations in memory of some of them. To like the Probert family, they have the Foundation for Cardiac Services, and then there's Rick Rippon Foundation for Mental Health, and but this is primarily focusing on the hockey world. And so I just know for myself when you think about it, it's. I identified, and I think we all do, as hockey players, right?
100%.
So, if we can come together and help other hockey players instead of, dealing with it, within ourselves, with, professionals and everyone else, like we do have a lady who's our executive director of mental health addiction. She's on call like 24/7 if people need support, which is unbelievable. And everybody's volunteering. Like nobody's making money off this, but the goal is to get it to that, we're getting there. We're like very close to breaking through, and that means that to me means that I have to take a step back and let the people that know how to do this kind of stuff really kind of take over and me still be a part of it. I'll still do everything, but that's not, I'm good at what I'm good at, but then there's going to have to be people that come in that they're good at other stuff and building the brand and building the organization.
Well, and you know your role. It's just like you were talking about on the Rockets, just how you knew your role on that team there. It's the same type of thing, no?
Absolutely.
It's good for you.
You're smart enough to know what you don't know.
But I'll tell you what, like we're coming up on a year that I've been working at this, and at different times I've been spending more time on it. We kind of tried to start it, and it kind of wasn't happy with the way it was going, so I kind of dismembered everything and then started rebuilding it again. And sometimes you have to do that. But what it took was, I had to learn how to build a website. I had to learn how to edit pictures. I had to learn how to do all this stuff because I didn't have the money to do it. I didn't have the backing to do it at the time.
No.
And and since the Pucksport website, pucksport.com has been, it's redone by somebody else. But for the first 8 months, it was a website that I put together, and it wasn't great, but at least it was there. At least people were seeing who we were, and everything. Any social media posts or whatever, like that's all been me. It's been like a 24/7 job, and I've learned a lot in the last year, not just about myself, but about how I'm like jack of all trades, master of none. But now it's time. Now it's time for the people who really know
the masters.
the masters to come in, and I can bring people together. I can share my story. I can get other people to talk. But when it comes to building like a successful organization, well, I'm not the guy. I'm not the guy, and I'm okay with that.
Absolutely, everyone's got their role.
I'm great with that.
I think just one thing, one of the common themes we've had today is just stepping out and trying things, right? When you know something's maybe not right, and you want to kind of right or wrong, it's I think a lot of people, myself included, I used to do this a lot, is try and get everything done behind the scenes first and try and figure out how to do everything before taking a step. And I think just a lesson that we've learned from you today is start and really take the first step and try things, and it's amazing the people you'll attract.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny that you say that, because like if you look at the website, like our mission statement isn't even on there yet, and we had one, Ken Campbell, senior writer for the Hockey News. He also did an article on me. He's a close personal friend. He helped us write that mission statement 6 months ago. Yeah. And it's since changed a little bit. So we haven't put it on there. And typically you wouldn't start something like this without having a clear vision and mission statement. Even though I know what it is and we know what it is, it should be there. And it's going to be there soon. But it goes back to what you were saying. Like, I could wait for everything to be perfect in quotations, right? Or I need to do this now because of the amount of people reaching out to me that need support, that need to know they're not alone. Like, it needed to happen now. Like, I didn't have the reason, I didn't have the know-how to make it perfect, and I needed to get out there and try and fail and get up and try and fail and get up. And it's pretty easy now I'm literally the one who puts all these names on all the clothing. I have a heat press, and I put those names on there myself. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
You're damn right. And every time I put one of those names on there, it's like I see my own name going on there, and I wonder, it's like, if I didn't do this, like, and what if I died? I'm like, there's no way people are remembering me for the person I actually am. They're gonna probably nobody even would have came to my funeral. That's how bad I was in my addiction and the crime and all the people I hurt and everything else.
That's what it does to you.
Yeah, and that's maybe similar for some of the guys we've lost and girls we've lost, where they were disconnected from their friends or their family or whatever, and maybe they would have been forgotten about. Well, guess what? They're never going to be forgotten about. Not like Pucksport will make
not as long as you're here.
Yeah,
100%. I respect that, man.
And as long as we're here, honestly, we got the support here, and everybody should be supporting that.
Yeah,
those guys should never be forgotten. And there should be less of them moving forward.
I was gonna say for sure too. Let's for the viewers out there. Let's nobody be scared to reach out, even to us, even to Puck Support, to GM32, to Carson or myself. We got Instagram. We all got it. Pursuit Hockey. Anybody big Johnny over here. Anybody you want to reach out to, we're all here. And whether it be your parents, again, us, anybody, your close friends. just reach out. Don't be scared.
Someone to reach out
Don't
to.
be scared, and we all got your back. Everyone's got each other's backs here, and let's all keep fighting for the good cause here.
It's been great.
Absolutely.
It's awesome to see, like I said, unfold over the past 10, 12 months. Just watching it through Facebook, and so excited to come up here and meet you finally. Right?
Yeah.
It's been cool.
No, it's been a privilege, and yeah, I'll echo those words. Like I tell everybody, like if you think you're alone, you're not. I mean, in some capacity, that's maybe not entirely true because we talked about this maybe off the air, but you have to do things for yourself, and sometimes taking that first step to get the support that you need, it's gonna it might save your life, and it's gonna be the hardest thing, but it has to come within yourself. And I know from my experience, I tried everything, or at least it felt like I did. And I was trying to do it for this. I was either going to get clean for hockey. I was going to get clean for my kids. I was going to get better for this. And never did I actually want to do it for myself. And that's what and I never tried to do it by myself, with the supporting cast. Like I was always like trying to use somebody or lean on them and be like, okay, I'll just, I'll follow them and maybe I'll make it, and it took a lot it took a lot to get where I'm at, and I'm growing every single day, and I think we all should be striving to grow every single day because otherwise you're not living, and
Absolutely.
It translates so much further than hockey, and I think that's the biggest thing, and I appreciate what you guys are doing and the way that you guys run your program is just making better people, creating the best possible people, so that when, whether they're in the dressing room or they're in their schools or working a job later in life, well, guess what? Then they're going to be those people that other people want them around,
and they're prepared.
And they're prepared, and they know how to deal with whatever's going to happen in life, because we're all going to have ebbs and flows and everything else, and it's just the way that it is. You cannot go and live a life completely unscathed. There's just no way.
Exactly.
And so, yeah.
Just one of my next questions was, just for you personally, with your journey, are there daily kind of things that you kind of do every day that like help you through things, or maybe you're going through a rough time, or whether it be whatever. I guess I'll just let you go off.
Yeah. So I mean, it's kind of been changing for me. A little bit here and there, but it's a combination of things. But like every day I'll start my day, I'll have a shower, but I listen to music that I like. I think it sounds kind of silly, but like it just sets me in a good mood for the morning.
What kind of music? I'm a big music guy.
I'm all over. I listen to a lot of things, but I listen to like a lot of Stain. I open with like It's Been a While by Stain, pretty much every day.
Track.
Pearl Jam, but I love the Tragically Hip. And, they're my favorite. And I listen to some country too. I have Hunter Brothers. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but I played with Luke Hunter in Swift Current. Yeah, he was just recently on my podcast, and
that's awesome.
So yeah, really cool. So I like their music. Obviously, when I know a couple of the brothers, so it's cool. But yeah, no, I like all music. It totally depends, but those are my go-tos. Then I'll hop over on YouTube and I'll listen to different motivational videos, whether it be Tony Robbins, Dave Goggins, Eric Thomas, whoever, just to sort of start the day off and just sort of, figure out, and I'll always pick a different one. Sometimes I'll listen to the same one twice, but that's sort of what I've been doing lately. Just trying to get my mind right. Just, like type in, You're Worth It in YouTube and just start listening to stuff. And it's interesting, right? Like, make it, a lot of them make it very simple, but it's very powerful. And, but I mean, the biggest thing for me is staying busy and, connecting with people. My social media, I don't have the biggest following, but I'll tell you what, I think I get more messages than people with 50,000 followers because it seems like everybody that follows me is messaging me every day, and it's actually a full-time job, but I take it very seriously. And I always tell people I don't have the answers for everything. Like they're not even close, but I'm willing to talk to people and help them support. And share my experience and try to figure out what it is for them. And there's been a couple guys that I've been really almost counseling a little bit, not professionally, but just talking to, encouraging that, are stringing together a couple months sober now and different things. And that feels really good. So, talked a young kid out of suicide 3 weeks ago, which was pretty incredible. Awesome. And I mean, the battle still continues because I know, you don't fix it that day. It's going to, you gotta keep up and contacting with these people. But I do things for myself. I've recently, about 2 months ago, started to work with a counselor for sexual abuse trauma, and we have Sandra, who I lean on a lot. She's a puck support counselor, but she's also my counselor.
Yeah. She's great too. She's great.
Yeah, so she's been really good, and just spending time with. I just had a daughter who's 4 months old, so
Congratulations.
yeah, it's been good, and
That's awesome.
so I get to spend some time with her. I'm not currently living with her, but I see her quite a bit, and it's good. And then my girlfriend's got 2 kids, and so just playing dad to them when I can, when our situation's a little bit messed up right now, but we're trying to work through it. The only problem is I do have my 2 kids back home who I haven't spoke to for a number of years, and that's sort of the one thing that hasn't come full circle yet, and I'm not sure if it ever will. But that's one of those things that could have kept me in my addiction forever. I could have just given up and been like, okay, well, that's never going to happen, so let's just keep doing this. And it may not happen tomorrow, it may never happen, but as long as I stay on the right path and keep putting one foot in front of the other, well, then there's always that chance. Right? There's a better chance. And, just trying to get through the day. I'm just like anybody else. I don't, recently stopped, using cannabis on a daily basis, which was a tool for me, and I know is now I can openly say that it's a major tool in hockey for the older players. We look to things like alcohol in the past, in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s. It seems like every guy I talk to, that's how they managed their stress and anxieties and different things before you go for beers before the game or after, or not before the game, after the game or night before a game, I meant. If they're worried about performing, and it just takes that edge off. And so it's obviously legal now. I'm not encouraging it. I've recently stopped because that's what I need to do for me. But it was definitely a tool to get where I'm at today. Just trying to figure myself out and be myself, and be comfortable in my own skin, and trying not to, be Brady the hockey player or, the drug addict or the jail guy or whatever, because it didn't matter where I went. I was always trying to fit in and be, the people pleaser, this or that. And, going through the experiences that I went through, that was all taken away from me, my ego, my everything, and I had to make a decision to, really pick myself up and rebuild myself. But this time when I did it, I made a decision that was like, I'm not going to do it anybody else's way. I'm going to follow my heart. I'm going to be myself, and it's been the best decision that I ever made. It hasn't been easy, but it's
good for you.
There's still those challenges every single day, and I just think that. It's a very hard life to be a hockey player. Even now, I look at the kids and it's like, wow, the amount of training, and they're not training. They're making YouTube videos or Instagram videos, and I'm just like, TikTok. Do these kids ever stop? Like, do they ever stop? Like, are they gonna get burnt out? Like, I'm wondering to myself. And they're already feeling the pressure, and I feel that the hockey world can do a better job managing that pressure for these kids.
Yeah, and honestly, that kind of just goes hand in hand with what we're talking about. We talk all the time. We talked to Frankie P about it the other night, about using hockey as a vehicle to experience, right? Like for us, we send guys to Europe. We help them go to school. We help them go to prep school or whatever it is they want to do. And in the agency side, if guys really want to try and go professional, that's great. But hockey's that vehicle, right? It's an experience. It's something that you use to bond with people, to have, something to do, really, like to keep you busy. It's all those things, and it's a great vehicle to experience and learn and become a leader and learn how to lose and how to fail and how to pick yourself up and just be better. So honestly, it really goes hand in hand.
Yeah. That's awesome. Did you play any other sports in the summer, things like that?
Yeah, not so much in the summer, but when I was younger, I played rugby. I was a scrum half. I did give it up for hockey, obviously, but I was really big into wakeboarding and water skiing in the summer.
Wow, really?
BC guy.
I guess so.
Yeah, but
I'm looking out here in Bracebridge. Like, what the fuck are you gonna do that?
I know. Like, we always talk about being kind of a multi-sport athlete, and to me, it's super important. We've talked about this, Carson. I think it's just super healthy for kids to not, like you were saying, try and maybe get a little bit burnt out with the one sport. And
try other stuff.
I'm a big believer in that. I wish I would have played baseball longer. I love baseball.
Hand-eye coordination.
Yeah, I love baseball. Actually, going back to Jamie Benn, he could have been a professional ball player too.
Really?
People don't know
Come
that.
on.
He was lights out, best in the province for
Think I'd
his
strike
age
him
of
out or
baseball.
no?
Yeah, I don't know. I was just saying he hit long bombs at an early age. I guess, so.
The size of that
he's a
guy.
big dude.
Jeez, he ain't small.
Yeah, but no, it's a great point, and so I think parents nowadays they see Joe next door or Joe on the team going, oh, he's doing that camp, I better be doing that camp plus the next camp, and sometimes less is more. Sometimes less is more, and I think getting those experiences outside of hockey is really, really important.
Yeah.
So you know what? Let's kind of go on a little brighter side now. We're kind of rolling. We're moving good right here. You got any good stories for us? You got any good Benny stories? Carson's favorite player. You got any good tilt stories? What was your favorite tilt? Good war stories for the kid?
Favorite fight?
Let's hear a good war story.
Probably against Derek Dorsett. That was a good fight. A long time NHLer who recently.
Did he break his hand on your face?
He sure did.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the one.
You know what? You want to post this video for the
we
viewers?
will.
Can we post that video
Yeah,
for the
of course,
viewers?
I'll send
We're
it.
going to get that video from him, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to post that on with this right now. We're going to watch this guy, somebody break his hand on his face.
Yeah, it was a good one, and it's interesting because Derek Dorsett, he played for the Med Hat Tigers, and he's not a big guy. He's my size. I'm not very big. I'm only 5'10". I played at 190. Derek Dorsett, the same size as I was, but he was a year older, and he fought everybody, and he did well against everybody.
Yeah.
And I remember, he was running around like an idiot that game, and I played him like 4 times, and I didn't want to fight him. Because everyone's talking out. When someone gets in your head, and they're like, "Oh, that guy stopped this and that," and so you start doudting yourself. And I remember, and Dean Schenn, there was nobody in our lineup that was gonna fight him, nobody. And Dean Schenn was so mad. He's like, "I'm fucking sick of this Derek Dorsett. Is anybody gonna fight him, or are we all a bunch of pussies?" And I was like, all right. And so I went out there and I asked him to fight, and he said no, and then I just kept bugging him, and so we squared off at center ice. And if you watch the video, we went back and forth, and he went down. He hit me hard though, man. My head still hurts.
Guy broke his hand on your melon.
Yeah, and that went
crazy.
That went a long ways because I remember we played them 2 weeks later, and he couldn't play because he had a cast on his hand, right?
Yeah.
And so my coach was all happy about that, and I remember, and I've talked to Derek. I haven't talked to him in the last few months, but I've talked to him since he retired. When he retired, I texted him and said, so he hurt his neck, so he had to retire from the NHL. But I remember passing him in the lobby that one. He's like, "Thanks, man, holding up this cast," and they went on to win the Western Hockey League that year.
Wow.
Yeah, and they actually, I think they beat the Vancouver Giants in the finals, but Vancouver was hosting the Memorial Cup. And so I was at a lot of those Mem Cup games with my dad, and he was an absolute menace in that Memorial Cup. And then actually Vancouver and Medicine Hat faced each other in the finals, and Vancouver beat Medicine Hat in the Mem Cup final, which is really weird,
insane.
right? That's the way the CHL works, right?
Yeah,
the host team gets in,
gets
and
a
that
bye,
was
right?
Milan Lucic was on that team, and
okay.
that
So
year.
they prepared to go to the Mem.
Yeah.
Yeah, they always do.
Yeah.
Try to anyway.
You have to.
That's a guy right there that was not very good when we were little.
Cheech?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah?
Because we grew up in the same vicinity. He's a year younger than me, but I remember I was a cocky kid, 16 or whatever, and just finished going to Swift Current, got all the Swift Current gear, and we were in this spring tournament, which was an unbelievable tournament. All the teams, and it was all the guys Brandon Yip was on our team, Andrew Ladd was on our team, and then on the other side there was a bunch of them. But I just remember Lucic didn't even really play rep up until whenever. I didn't even know who he really was. I heard he was not very good, and he was 15, I was 16. It was a midget tournament, 15, 16, 17-year-olds or whatever it was, and so man, I just remember him chirping me and just being "Who are you? Shut up, man! You're garbage." You know what I mean? But here's a guy that he ended up getting a chance to play Junior A and did well, and then got listed by the Vancouver Giants, and he took on a role, became one of the toughest guys, but a lot of people may not know how much he really worked on his skating and everything else.
Oh, yeah,
because he was big.
Yeah.
He got big fast, right?
Still not a great skater.
Yeah,
No.
but he is a
strong.
lot faster than what you will ever believe.
You can see the work
Yeah.
ethic in that guy, though. Every time he steps on the ice, that
So,
guy's balls to the wall every time.
So there's, you look back at that and it's like, it's kind of funny because he's had all his struggles on the ice and stuff. He seems he's picking it up a little bit,
Yeah.
but it's a guy that I cheer for big time. Even though we
kind of
had those problems when we were a kid and everything else. But when you see a guy like that have the success that he had, even though he did beat the Vancouver Canucks that year in the playoffs, he won a Stanley Cup in his hometown, which was kind of cool against his hometown team. But when you see something like that, you see a guy like Jamie Benn, 5th rounder, never drafted to the WHL. It's pretty cool, like those guys that go on to have great careers in the NHL, and that just goes to say that it's never too late for any of these kids. If you're getting cut at 12 years old, Andrew Ladd, 2-time Stanley Cup champ, same thing. He got cut from Pee Wee, he got cut from Bantam, he got cut from whatever. He played Junior B, and then he got made the Coquitlam Express. He played with Brandon Yip and David Jones that year, and then he ended up getting listed by the Vancouver Giants, went to the Giants, got cut, got picked up by the Calgary Hitmen, went to the Calgary Hitmen, played with Ryan Getzlaf, got drafted 4th overall the next year. Won the Stanley Cup 2 years after that. And then another one with Chicago. So it's like, come on, you never give up. If you believe and you keep working, anything is possible. And I really believe that.
Yeah, I honestly think too. Like I watched, I reference this a lot just because I loved it so much. But The Last Dance with Michael Jordan, and he talks about honestly just the mentality and just making the choice to be better than everyone. And honestly, at any level, like for me, I reference this too. But in my career, it was a big turning point when I just decided to be better. You know what I mean? As weird as that sounds, when I just decided, oh yeah, you can play this game, just go out and be better. Because for a long time, I had anxieties or, am I good enough? Am I there? Whatever. Yep. And when you make that switch, like you said, your 20-year-old year, relax, play. Just go play, have fun.
Yeah.
Boom. And it's natural. You can play the game, right?
Yeah.
And that's when it becomes the most. That's when you love the game.
Yeah, exactly.
That's where love of the game comes from, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's
just to go back to kind of one of the points you said before that too is the beauty about hockey is you can compete on the ice and hate a guy on the ice, but then sort of leave it, right? Just like you were talking about how you kind of root for Lucic these days and stuff, and you may have had your squabbles with him on the ice, but you can kind of put that aside and leave it on the ice, and that's one of my favorite.
Yeah.
Exactly, that's one of my favorite things.
Another guy's Ryan Reeves. He played for the Brandon Wheat Kings when I was in Swift Current.
How was that? I played against that guy.
Yeah, he was. Still same thing. I would chirp him all the time. Garbage, whatever. Another guy that he plays his role and he's worked on his game and he's made a very successful NHL career.
Yeah. And like as you said before, like these guys that we're talking about, like Lucic. Even I would say Reeves probably more than Lucic. Now they're not staged fighters.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're not out there. They're there to protect their teammates, like you were, and play hockey. Like they got to be out there to do their role. You know what I mean? But like their role is not to go out there and just fight, because you'll never crack a lineup in the NHL these days just because you can fight. It ain't gonna happen. You gotta be able to play the game and see
and
you guys worked at it like that. It's incredible.
Maybe the last thing I'll say for any of the young guys listening is that here's the thing: like even if you're the best player on your team now, regardless of where you're playing, the chances of you being the best player on the team in the NHL, being a power play guy, being whatever, it's very few and far between. So,
enjoy the process.
Work on the things that other guys don't want to work on. If you're a centerman, become the best at taking faceoffs. You could make a career out of that.
Honestly,
block shots. If you're a winger, work on the walls as much as you can. Mm-hmm. Take the time. It sucks. It's not fun. I used to like to practice the things I was good at.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to practice stuff I'm bad at. Like, do the things that other guys won't do and don't want to do, and you'll have more success. Because, you look at guys that get drafted in the first round because they're scorers in junior. Well, guess what? They weren't good enough to be scorers in the NHL, and they didn't know how to play a third or fourth line role. Yeah. So guess what? Maybe they had, successful hockey careers in a sense, but for the rest of their life, they're going, man, I should have panned out to be this or that or whatever. You have to be willing to do absolutely anything and the things that other guys aren't going to do. And so, regardless, even if you're the best player on the team, figure out how you're going to still be the shot blocker and everything else, because that is going to be the intangibles that solidify you really in hockey at every single level.
Yeah, if you're not going to be the best player, do something on the team the best or better than anyone else.
Yeah.
I like that philosophy a lot.
That's dynamite.
Yeah.
That's one of the best words I've ever heard.
Yeah. Good advice for the kids.
Absolutely.
Right on.
Well, I think we're getting pretty close to the end here.
Yeah, we got to be wrapping her up.
Oh
here.
my God!
How long have we been going?
About an hour and a half.
That's not bad.
That's pretty
It's
good.
not too bad. But
That's really good.
I feel great where we're sitting.
Anytime you guys want to do it again.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I just want to do it. I
it's
just want to do it
no
again.
issue.
You know what I
Thanks,
mean? Like
dude.
have more stories. You know what I mean? Like keep
course.
these guys fucking wanting
Now
more.
they know, your listeners will know who I am. and
Yeah,
we can
now they
come
want
back and
more.
talk. Now we
Exactly.
can talk hockey and different things. So.
Awesome.
Boy, hey, you know what? I just want to say thank you very much for coming on our show, Brady.
Hey,
This has been absolutely phenomenal. I was stoked since we knew you agreed to came on. Since you invited us up here. I mean, a few days ago. I haven't slept much since then. I know last night we left at about 4:35 this morning, and I didn't sleep a wink last night. I was so excited to be here.
He told me he's coming up at 5:30. I'm like, you better get some sleep.
We were
did.
up, man. We were up. We watched the videos, and we. Seriously, man, we greatly appreciate you coming out with your story and what you're doing with everybody too, and what you're doing with your podcast and your charity. It's something that seriously gives you some chills and.
Do you want to do one more plug of the podcast and the charity? Just
Yeah,
so
you know
people
what?
where it is?
Yeah, absolutely. That's so the charity's called
Puck Support. You can check us out on Instagram at Puck Support, pucksupport.com.
There you go, and your and your podcast. My bad.
Hockey2Hell and Back. So hockey with the number 2, Hell and Back. And you can follow me on Instagram at Mental Health Hockey.
There you go.
Awesome.
Thank you very much for coming
Thanks
on,
so
man.
much,
It's been an absolute pleasure.
And we'll do it again. Thanks everybody for tuning in today. Honestly, what a great day! Just skating in the morning, having fun on the pond, having Brady back here, with us, being able to do this podcast and everything he shared with us. Just I feel really honored, and it was a special day.
No, honestly, man, you can't help but recognize what this guy's doing and how much he's been through. And the guys, like I said, I posted it, and the guy's fighting the good fight. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day. He's doing whatever it takes to kind of get the word out and spread the message, and a lot of us can kind of follow in his footsteps. And I think we're all going to grow from this experience. And it was great having him on.
Lessons from this.
It was great.
Podcast.
It was great having this guy on.
Yeah, he's really come a long way. We had a lot of fun with him, and it was just really great talking with him. He's just a really stand-up guy and a lot of fun to have around. So we wanted to plug his Instagram pages. Here we got a couple of them here. So it's on Instagram at Hockey2Hell Podcast, at Mental Health Hockey, at Puck Support Warriors, at Puck Addiction, at Puck Support Swag, and at Puck Support. Also, you can find the swag at pucksupport.com. I think that's it for the plugs.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Johnny. Thanks for reading those off for us, and thanks again, everybody, for tuning in and listening to us. We're on Spotify, we're on Apple, and keep tuning in and listening to some of these great guys and their stories. It's been awesome so far, and we're excited to keep it going.
Yeah, absolutely. I also want to thank the Slim Reaper for coming on and joining us.
No, it was a lot of fun, boys. Like I said, we had so much fun with them. I'm glad we came up with you guys.
Yeah, we're definitely glad you came with us, Slim, for sure. So with a quick little sign off here, I'm Carson Johnstone.
I'm John Stephenson, a.k.a. Slim Reaper.
And I'm Vito Scaringi. And I got one question for you.
Can you feel